3, 2, 1.
For all of our Winged Wheel Podcast Patreon supporters, keep an eye out for this week's pre-show video because you get to witness Brad's hockey stories and all of their glory.
I was not overly complimentary of myself, to be fair.
That is a tacit lie, but...
In one way I was.
But I will give it to you in that it was an interesting story and you had to tell it the way you did. Yeah. I'm just ribbing you. It's not because I hate you as a person. Sorry, that's a disconnect. I do hate you as a person, but not because of this.
Okay.
Not that this helps, but here we are.
It doesn't increase or decrease the hate.
You know, one day you will kill me. And as I'm dying, I was going to be like, I'm kidding, you're the only real friend I have.
And I'm just standing there, a bloody mess. It didn't matter anyway.
Well, that's not a lie. You wouldn't be my only friend. Mika now counts as my friend. Me being her honorary godfather notwithstanding, she named one of her toys after me.
Her robot.
Yeah, her robot toy.
So I don't know how to take that aside.
That's a smart kid, man. She's figured stuff out. Doors, because she crawled down here last episode.
Yeah, that's going to be the real problem.
Yeah, we're going to have to put a check on that. I started looking at studios for rent. Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast midweek episode. We got a full set of 2 or 3 hosts here today. This is Ryan.
I'm Brad.
And the voice you don't hear is Evan, which is not terribly different from recent episodes, or all episodes.
I was going to say recent. This has been like a year-long thing at least.
For you guys who like YouTube stuff, which just I don't understand in my head why. That is almost nearly caught up within the next day or so. We'll be caught up for this season's YouTube videos. That's full episodes available for everyone to watch with bad camcorder quality, and any interviews that we do obviously won't be in there in the YouTube video.
The audio is better than I thought it would be, though, given that it's just out of a camera. It's not obviously we paid hundreds upon hundreds of dollars for these mics, but so this is obviously far better, but that wasn't as bad as
it's not bad. It's listenable. If you like watching us, which is it's silly, but if you like it, it's going to be there. And if you like the pre-show videos as well, that's for Patreon supporters only. Those are also almost completely caught up. Those ones I actually like clipping out because some of them we have 3 minutes where we just scratch our heads and say nothing, and some of them we had conversations like we did today.
The morning episodes.
The morning episodes, yeah. Which are ironically easier for us to do.
And also, if you're a fan of our not PG, family-friendly content, those are the videos for you.
Yeah. Do we have
not every episode gets like that, but when Evan's here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Are there a lot of kids? I know some people say they listen with their kids in the car, and I think we do for the most part keep it pretty tame. As far as hockey talk goes, I think it's pretty tame.
I've noticed we've really reduced ourselves to only cursing when we are really emphasizing a point. Whereas when we started, it was every third word.
And we try to say Firkin a lot. We're good with that. I really love Martin Firk for that reason only.
They had Ain and Firk on a line for a bit there. There was so much promise, but they didn't have Abdulkader or Athanasiou with them, so
yeah.
It ruined it. We almost had the Firk and A line.
Almost had it. Well, this week we were saying something that we've been not struggling with, but had to switch our tune as we try out this whole 2 episode a week thing is we can't stack up content for 7 days anymore. And today is not a representation of that because we had probably the 2 biggest off-ice stories of the season so far in the past 3-4 days.
Close to it. Well, we might have had... I don't know if we could say 2 of the 3 because I'm pretty sure Ottawa's got 9 of the top 10 right now, but one of them was Ottawa related, so they're keeping their streak alive at least.
Yeah. Do we want to start with Ottawa? Is that what we're gonna do?
Yeah. Let's start with Ottawa.
I don't know how this starts and ends as a conversation, so
there's apparently another part to this video. There's a prequel that they didn't release that's apparently worse.
How could it possibly be worse? Where did you hear that from? This is news.
Twitter? I don't know. I think it was, and it was, it wasn't nobody. It was a blue checkmark who reported it too. I want to say someone from, I think it might have been Lavoie who tweeted that out, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that, anybody.
What was presumably in it? And it was just said
it was probably more of the same, just a different conversation.
Oh, well, that's not.
Yeah.
I mean, once you kind of break that barrier, you can imagine, like, all that really does is give us a window into one conversation about the rest of the team, right? You can imagine what they've said about Melnick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And maybe that was the first part of it that got cut out. It's like the only person who's a real a-hole in this situation, in my mind, is the Uber driver. Because if there's anybody out there who's saying they don't complain about their coach, they don't complain about your boss, blah, 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 you are a filthy liar. Everybody does. No matter how extreme or minor it is, everybody does. But when you're having a conversation in private, and it wasn't like they were being super rude to him, they were just criticizing his coaching style. It wasn't like they were ripping on his appearance or his background or his ethnicity or anything dumb like that. It was just he runs through a video and doesn't give us any detail on what we should change. He just says what happened, and he doesn't ever change the system. Is it that egregious? It's not good. But is that really that egregious? Although I like Matt Duchene's line, I haven't paid attention in 3 weeks and it hasn't mattered.
That was honestly, like, I've been pretty ambivalent about Matt Duchene as a player. Like, I'm neither here nor there on him. I think he's a great hockey player, but, like, I don't have any, like, you know, subjective love for the guy. I'm not really invested in him until that line, and he's now one of my favorite players. To have the superstar, the real superstar of the team that's not Shabbat or Mark Stone, say, I haven't paid attention in 3 weeks, and still know he's the best player on the ice for that team at any given moment is hysterical.
But it's a valid criticism if your team is like one of the worst teams in the league and you're not changing your systems in any way, shape, or form. I promise you I'm not going to relate this back to Blashill. Though I really want to. Anyways.
You just went cross-eyed for a second. I wish you were facing the camera because you actually went cross-eyed for a second.
Every time like I talk about some sort of poor coaching strategy from another team, it just like there's a direct parallel, but I'm just not. We've spent enough time on that. But yeah, like I don't get the massive outrage here. At the Uber driver, yeah, because he's a slime ball, but
all right, here's my take on it. None of the things that they're saying are objectively wrong. That doesn't matter. None of the things that they're saying are really, in the grand scheme of things, that bad. Like, no one should lose their job over this. Like, a couple bag skates, and if you're a fringe player, get sent down to the minors, maybe. Like, that's about where... But, like, in the grand scheme of things... And I'm going to get to the driver, but in the grand scheme of things, as a professional player, as a public figure, you have to understand that you need to keep your mouth shut unless you're absolutely certain that this can never get out. You just got to keep your mouth shut. I don't think anything they said was wrong. I don't even think anything they said was that bad. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because it's massively entertaining to me. But you know, like, you're sounding off like that to someone who's completely like new. There was a little bit of showboating for a guy who was very clearly invested in, or like was interested in the fact that they're professional hockey players. That is what it is. You can't possibly say for certain that this wouldn't happen. Now, that Uber driver is a complete and massive pile of garbage. Whether or not they gave a $100 tip or no tip, you don't do that. Don't record people and post their conversations under any circumstance. And then it gets me that he did it for a tip. I'm sorry, but if you're in this service industry for a tip, be a cab driver, not an Uber driver. You know full well the way this industry is in transition. You know full well that there's no reasonable expectation as an Uber driver for a tip. Yes, Uber drivers are underpaid. Take that up with Uber. You can't anymore because you just lost your job with them. He's lucky that it's a single-party consent state in terms of recording, and that the legal challenge likely won't be too strong if there even was one. But that is a scummy thing to do. And you know what? You want to know another thing that gets me? These are 4 or 5 guys in an Uber. Seven.
That was just to get on a tangent here, I'll let you get back to it. That was my favorite part of the whole video, because I was watching the video like on my phone, so I wasn't too invested in the video portion of it. I was kind of like looking off, listening to the audio, whatever. I didn't realize it was 7 people till they all got out. I thought it was just the 4, the guy in the front seat and the 3 guys, and then I'm like, oh no! Because I'm trying to figure out, okay, I'm like, oh, so that's Duchene, that looks like Dzingel, that looks like Shabbat, I'm trying to figure out who the guys are, right? And then I'm like, this is bad. Like, Shabbat and Duchesne are like...
Tierney was there.
Yeah, I'm like, these are the guys on Ottawa you can't have in this controversy. No. And then 3 more got out, and I'm like, oh no, who else was there?
The only thing that could have been worse is if, like, Hoffman, Stone, and Carlson crawled out of the back for some reason. But, like, these are young... professional players taking an Uber to go out for a night on the town. Are we really going to start discouraging them from doing that? Look at the NFL, where you have so many idiotic drinking and driving policies, where they have set up a program where for no charge to them at all, they can call a car and they'll drive them home for wherever the hell they are. And we're going to start... This guy is going to put this out there, and these guys are going to start worrying about taking public... Like, it's just so stupid in every way. They're scumbags. He's a slime ball. Tip or no tip, you're a piece of human trash. However, being those players, you just gotta be smarter than that. It doesn't matter how pissed off you are. It doesn't matter how funny it is. Because it was hysterical. Like, them saying, like, and they break into the zone full speed, and Andy's just there like, whoa. Like, that's very funny. You're doing it to laugh it up with the guys, or you're doing it to showboat in front of the driver. You gotta keep it contained, man. This is it. You're in the NHL. Obviously that doesn't matter for guys who are gonna be there, but like, you're not the bad guys. Pierre Dorian, Eugene Melnyk, those are the bad. Don't be the ones to make mistakes. You can't do it. It's just so easy to not.
It's 2018. Outside of being in your hotel room or in your house, you have no reasonable expectation of privacy at this point in the world we live in.
No, you don't.
Hell, even that hockey team I was playing with last night, there was like 5 people who walked through the middle of the room when we were getting ready, and I'm like, I don't know who any of you people are. I don't recognize you. They didn't introduce them. The players didn't acknowledge them. It was weird. It was weird. So yeah, no privacy at any point.
No, you don't. And like, especially as an athlete, you don't. It makes me sad. It genuinely does make me sad because like you said, these conversations are happening not just on Ottawa, these conversations are happening on Tampa Bay, these conversations are happening on Vegas, these conversations are happening on Pittsburgh. Every single team has conversations like this. 100%. Whether they're real complaints or not. In your workplace, have you ever heard people complain about your boss? Yes. If you're answering no, that means you've never been in a workplace. It just happens. And it sucks that these guys will have been not vilified. I think the media's actually been pretty easy in understanding on them, and even the team was like, we already resolved this, so they might have done a back skate or had a warning.
Yeah, apparently Ottawa got the video like 2 days before it was released or something like that.
I'm not sure I believe that, but they didn't make a public show. I was surprised Eugene Melnyk didn't have...
I thought that was confirmed that the Sun let them know, like, hey, we have this.
Oh, do you want to comment? Yeah. That. That could be true. Regardless, it seems like the guys weren't vilified, but I still feel bad for them. Like, imagine that heart in your throat moment where, like, someone texts you, says, hey, someone recorded us in that Uber. The video's everywhere. Like, that, especially, because there's a guy who's up on call-up from the minors, and he must have been like, that's it for me. Like, that's my chance at the show. Because, like, that's not the kind of thing that you can carry from team to team and have them say, yeah, like, I'm confident picking this guy up. Like, unless you're Mike Hoffman and you can go wherever the hell you want because you're that talented, yeah. Although, how is he doing this year? Not that great, right?
I mean, you can just say that about Florida in general.
Yeah, you really can't blame it on him. Florida, Detroit, Red Wings, Panthers.
Huh?
Florida, quotations, Detroit Red Wings, and close quotations.
You should have threw like a literally in there to emphasize the joke.
Oh, no, I don't...
Florida, literally the Detroit Red Wings, Panthers.
No, because I'm against the new antithetical definition.
Florida, the metaphorical Detroit Red Wing Panthers.
Hey, that's good. I like that. Who was it that tweeted out? They should have Melnyk and Borowitzki sit down.
I don't. If they do, I'm not watching it.
Are you kidding me? I would pay money for that.
I'm not the type of person that gets enjoyment out of cringe.
If that was pay-per-view, I would watch it. 100%.
Oh.
I would watch that over another Mayweather-Pacquiao fight at this point. Mayweather-McGregor, maybe not. But Mayweather-Pacquiao, absolutely.
Oh.
That wasn't so bad. It feels like everyone's take on this is just pretty much the same. Kind of sucks. Makes for boring radio. Exciting radio. Chicago.
What you doing there, Chicago?
Chicago has an obsession with trading away or giving away or firing away their best talent. Panarin, Teravainen, everyone, it seems. The newest...
Don't forget they had Dustin Byfuglien.
They did win 3 cups, and that has to be a qualifier for every conversation about Stan Bowman, Chicago, and his entire team. I know that until the end of time. Like, literally, they have as many cups as Detroit's been lording over for the past however many years.
You could literally just sit down and have this conversation. The qualifier for why it's understandable that Stan Bowman is the right guy to make this decision is he won 3 Stanley Cups, and the counterpoint would be, in Quenneville's favor, is, well, he won 3 Stanley Cups.
Yeah. But, in a vacuum... They just fired Joel Quenneville. Whoa. I'm not sure about that one, Chief.
So, it wouldn't be the worst move in the world, in my mind, given that Chicago struggled last year. They had a good start this year, and it seems to have turned back to what more people expected of Chicago this year. So you can put a bit of Quenneville on that because, again, there's regression there. You put it on the team, but here's the thing. Chicago had a top-tier roster for 8 years. And they were the best team in the NHL in those 8 years. As soon as the roster weakened, the team weakened. There was no surprises here. Generally, when you see a massive influence from a coach one way or another, you will see a surprise. Right now, there would be very valid criticism. Is Bob Boughner ruining the Florida Panthers? Because Florida was supposed to be good and they're not. Whereas you can look at a team like Toronto and go, is Mike Babcock elevating the Leafs? Well, no, the Leafs were supposed to be about where they are, so there's no surprises there. Quenneville's Hawks finished about where they should every year based on the roster they had. And the years, a good coach will make a good team great. The Hawks have always been a good team, and they got 3 cups out of it. So you can easily say Quenneville was the good coach that made the good team great those years.
I don't think the Chicago Blackhawks teams that won their cups were better than the Pittsburgh Penguins teams that won their cups. And so I agree with you that Quenneville was a big factor in what put them over the top to be as successful.
Yeah, and again, there's credit to Stan Bowman those years too, because you went into all those seasons going, yeah, Chicago's going to be good, and they were. But over the last few years, Stan Bowman has made some very quick... I understand that having cap-controlled contracts is good, but that Panarin for Saad trade is still terrible.
It's awful. Anytime you're giving away Panarin for... it just...
Functionally, obviously the terms are a little different, but functionally there's no difference between that trade and the Eberle for Strome trade.
No!
It was just to get a cap-controlled player versus one that you couldn't control.
And it was a subjective emotional decision bringing Saad back. Everyone's like, well, the guys wanted him. The guys aren't managers. They don't know how to build teams.
So, and a lot of people are saying, well, Chicago's going to win this trade because Panarin's going to be leaving Columbus this year. No, Chicago did not win this trade because here's my argument to that. You take Chicago as they are, you take back the Panarin trade, you take back, let's just say, the Chalmerson trade. Who's to say Chicago doesn't win another cup? Yeah, after this year they'd be screwed like Columbus is now. Chicago was in a position 2 years ago where they were still one of the best teams in the league. Mind you, they got bounced in the first round. But hey, Panarin is young, he got older, he got better. That could have been the summer you look for a patch via trade, via free agency, to bolster your roster, not unload arguably your second best player. So,
Teuvo Teravainen is another example of talent just being unloaded.
That one's a little more understandable because they had to move one of the dead contracts to keep them. I don't ever agree with that unless you're moving like one of the top 5 worst contracts in the NHL, and even then, depending where your team's at, I don't necessarily agree. Like right now, would I agree with sending Jared McIsaac off with Justin Abdelkader for nothing to get rid of him? No, because Detroit's in a rebuild, so who cares? Chicago was in a position to rebuild, so to compete, so they needed all the cap space they could get. So sure, I get that, but still, it was a talented roster, a roster that was making the playoffs and could still compete as recently as a year and a half ago. You could argue it was 2.5 or 3.5 years ago where they were truly good, but again, a good GM fixes those problems. There's a reason Pittsburgh's always in contention despite the fact they have no defense. They always just make the right move at the deadline, get one piece to put them over the top to keep them competitive. There's nothing to say Stan Bowman couldn't have done it, but Stan Bowman went, not the nuclear option, but he went off the deep end and it backfired, and Quenneville lost his job because of it. That's essentially what happened here. And it's not, we can't also forget that Quenneville and Bowman had some public spats.
Oh yeah.
Like the Chalmerson trade. That happened at the draft. Quenneville walked off the floor. He was so angry with that trade.
That was his favorite player.
Yeah, he was pissed, and rightfully so, because he knows the weaker that roster gets, the more his job is in jeopardy. And he was right.
And he fired one of the assistants on Chicago, who is Quenneville's best friend and closest friend.
Is that my kitchen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not. They've never. It was very much a Mike Babcock, Ken Holland situation, but worse, I'd say, in terms of the animosity between them. And so this was kind of a matter of time. And Stan Bowman has the backing of his dad, who is the most successful coach in the history of hockey, maybe sports. Obviously, that's going to carry some weight. And the ownership group, they love Stan. I think in the grand scheme of things, this is the beginning of his end.
Definitely. Your team trends the wrong way, heads have to roll. There's very few organizations that you can be bad for a period of time and nobody takes the fall for it. Remember, we are a Detroit Red Wings podcast, and we talk about the Red Wings more than anything else. The Red Wings are the outlier.
They're an exception to every rule.
They are the exception to the rule. They are the organization that is loyal to a fault. This is not how every other sports franchise operates.
No.
Which leads me into the next point, because obviously as soon as this happened, my Twitter blew up, my mentions blew up.
Brad's very popular, everyone. So popular.
I've got a lot on this one, but anyways, no, I do not think Joel Quenneville is coming to Detroit. I'll just get that out of the way now.
Why not?
Because if I'm Joel Quenneville, out of all the jobs that are currently available, will soon be available, and are going to be available in the future, Detroit is probably in the bottom 10% of the jobs I would want. Right now, if I'm Joel Quenneville, I am looking very closely at St. Louis, because Mike Yeo is on the bubble, and that's a team that should be a cup contender, not out of a playoff spot like they are now. And let's not forget, Joel Quenneville has coached the Blues before, for a long time. There is familiarity there. There is comfort there. And if he's like, you know what? I want a challenge. I want to have my signature moment on my career. Well, if you want that, Detroit's not your option. You're waiting a couple of years and you're taking the Seattle job.
You want to know what another marquee moment on your career would be? Like a capstone on his career? Going back to his essentially hometown team.
He is from Windsor.
He's from Windsor, Ontario.
That is the only advantage Detroit has over everybody else. It's the hometown team.
You can tell it because his skin glows in the dark. It's a thing we have.
Now,
if you ever been swimming in the Detroit River, your skin glows after for 35 years. And you have to jump in to replenish it. Not that it's a good thing, but if you let it fade away, you die. It's a funny quirks, Windsor. We're great. We have great Middle Eastern food, great Italian food, and yeah, our skin glows because of the water.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a good stuff there.
You can also, in the pregame shows for the Red Wings, when they dim the lights, you can pick out the hometown players as they skate on the ice.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's so good that way. They actually make them stay in the tunnel because they ruin the projections on the ice.
That's why we get so many Michigan players. It has nothing to do with the performance. It just amps up the pregame show.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about glow per 60. That's a dumb one. I don't like that one. That was weak.
All right. So then it leads into the next question, because we are a Detroit Red Wings podcast. Would we want Joel Quenneville as the coach of the Red Wings?
Yes.
There is no other answer. It's yes.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to do a thing here. I was like,
I don't think he would come here. I don't see, if I'm in Joel Quenneville's position, hometown notwithstanding, why he would want to come to Detroit right now. But if I'm Ken Holland sitting there and Joel calls me up, hey, I'm interested, I'm firing anybody who I need to fire to get him on the staff right now.
This is like what Montreal did with Claude Julien. It's like how Vegas got Gerard Gallant to the nth degree. Joel Quenneville arguably is the best possible coach that could come on the market, Mike Babcock included.
Yeah.
It's like
Quenneville's got more cups than Babcock, and as much as it pains us to say, is we could easily sit here, as happy as we are that it happened, we could easily sit here and say Babcock should have more than one cup with Detroit.
Oh, 100%.
He should have had 2 or 3 minimum. 05-06 was a travesty, and again, not Mike Babcock's fault, but 09, they were right there.
Was he in 05-06? Was that still Dave Lewis?
No, that was I think that was Babs. I think it was the lockout year that Babcock came in. I could be wrong. Don't quote me.
Man, Dave Lewis was a nightmare.
Our next coach is going to be great. We're in this cycle. It's the coach you thought would be great, who came up from within the system, and then was terrible, and then we bring in one of the best coaches in the world from the outside.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're getting Quenneville.
We're getting Joel Quenneville. Title of the episode: Quenneville Come Home. Quenneville the Prophecy. Q.
Welcome to Quenneville.
I was gonna say we can do a Q conspiracy theory, but that's been taken up by some other people online, so we'll ignore that one.
We'll let that one go.
We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on.
Do not Google.
We're gonna move on. No, we're not gonna move on. I'm gonna stay on Joel Quenneville. Phenomenal mistake by Chicago. I understand that, and you mentioned this, Brad. Like, for sure, he wasn't perfect. There's so many parallels to Babcock here. I think the guy made a lot of mistakes, and I think that there's an opportunity for someone to come in here and do a lot of things differently that Quenneville wouldn't have done, and make it better in those tiny little vacuums. But Quenneville is arguably the best coach in the league, and you fired him. And what are you supposed to do when the guy has coached rosters that have been trending down to success year after year, right? Like, it's only a matter of time before failure like this came around for the past couple of years.
And one of the arguments I heard against Quenneville coming to Detroit was, well, he's not a young players coach. He leans heavy on his vets. And you look at the way Chicago's run over the last few years, mostly you're right. Although my recent argument to you would be Alex DeBrincat, but I digress. This is how you can tell people don't look at a wide enough scope when forming opinions. When Joel Quenneville came to the Hawks, he was dealing with a very, very, very young team. He was dealing with rookie Jonathan Toews, rookie Patrick Kane. Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook were brand new to the NHL. Corey Crawford was a brand new goalie coming to the NHL. So, from that standpoint, I don't see any problem with him coming to Detroit because he did it with Chicago. If you're one of the people like me who believes, based on Detroit's system and their current path, you have very real reason to be optimistic for the team 3 to 5 years from now, that was Chicago in 2007. Yes, bring him in. I don't think it will happen, but if he's available, there's no reason to not hire him. He is at the top of the list. There is nobody you hire over Joel Quenneville if Joel Quenneville's interested.
If you're any GM in the league right now who's not happy with your coaching situation, you make a call to that agent just to put feelers out. Obviously, you're not going to do a full court press because that's not good if you want to keep the guy you have employed with you after the situation is all said and done, and you don't land Joel Quenneville, but you at least call and say, hey, my party's interested, let me know if we can get in a room with him.
And you have to understand, circumstance matters here too. Because every year there's only going to be so many jobs. A team who's happy with their coach right now will not move on from their coach, even though Joel Quenneville's out there. And how many coaches out there are really on a hot seat right now? I'd argue at most 5. So you're telling me that if you make a full court press for Joel Quenneville, your odds are 20%? How do you not do that? And again, Detroit's one of the wealthier organizations in the team. If he wants a Mike Babcock contract, Detroit's one of the teams who can give it to him. You can't say that about every team.
No.
So, again,
it's not. You're right. It's not something we can reasonably expect to happen.
No, I would not bet on it. Ken Holland seems loyal to Jeff. Again, Jeff Blashill should have been fired 2.5 years ago. He's still here. We can assume he's not going anywhere until his contract runs out. And that's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but in terms of Jack Hughes, it's fine. Unless you just have to pray Quenneville stays on the market till the offseason. You have to. I wouldn't wait that long. I would let Blashill go tomorrow, and I would let Disco Dan take over until I can get a contract done with Quenneville. Do not care.
If I'm Quenneville, do I not? Yeah, I would take. You don't jump into something right away.
No, if I had to bet money, Quenneville will ride out the rest of the year, weigh his options, yada yada yada, unless an offer that's way too good comes out. If St. Louis does fire Mike Yeo, and St. Louis is like 6 years, $8 million a year, bud. Oh yeah, he's in. So that's the risk you run if you wait till the end of the season. But yeah, I don't know. I really do not know. This could go a lot of ways. But if I was a betting man, I'm looking at St. Louis or Seattle. If he's really willing to wait it out. But again, if I'm Ken Holland here, all in. I would do whatever I have to do to get him on board. Because again, there is no cap space on coaching and management.
There's something to be said for how big the news was of Zadina. It really was the big, shining, positive light for this team and the fan base, one that they haven't seen in some time. If this team lands Joel Quenneville, bigger or smaller than Zadina news?
Smaller.
Yeah?
For now, again, Philip Zadina, he did have a couple more goals this week, but prospects you don't know. Philip Zadina could be a perpetual 40-goal scorer, and if he is, man, you can't beat that. You need superstars. Again, Joel Quenneville doesn't get the Hawks a cup if he doesn't have Patrick Kane. That's the reality of it. Players are always the most important thing. If like this could be a summer. Again, it's a long shot, but there's again a realistic chance that this summer the Red Wings get Jack Hughes, Joel Quenneville, Steve Yzerman. Quenneville and Steve Yzerman will be 2 and 3 on the list of important things that happen to the Red Wings.
I think I put Yzerman 1.
No, I player the on ice personnel.
Yeah, but
always,
but you don't get
the most critical.
You don't get the on ice personnel
From a story standpoint. Sure, like Yzerman coming back's the better feel good story. Like the sentiment is there, but from a what's going to get you cups, Jack Hughes will have more to do with that than Steve Yzerman or Joel Quenneville would. Because if you don't have a Jack Hughes, you don't win a cup. That's just the way the NHL is. Find me the last team to win a Stanley Cup without a true superstar.
It just doesn't happen.
It doesn't.
And that's why when we do long-term outlooks of this team and people say, well, this, and this happened, Detroit could be contenders. I'm like, yeah, they might break the playoffs, but like, if Larkin's your best center and Cholowski's your best defenseman, you're not making it far.
Now, we sit here and say, like, right now we can say Detroit could be a cup contender based on what they have in the system right now. But that's predicated on Philip Zadina coming up and being a 40-goal scorer one day.
Yeah.
Like, that has to happen.
And that's like...
Dylan Larkin's a good enough number one center that he can be the complementary center to a true superstar winger like Zadina. And you could realistically say, yeah, that's a line that can get you a cup. If Zadina comes up, and even if Zadina's really good, he's a 25 to 30 goal scorer annually. The Red Wings are not cup contenders unless they get someone above him. It might again. We say Jack Hughes because that's the obvious name for this summer. Capo Caco looks like he could be that guy too. But you need him. You need to hit. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be first overall. Let's not forget, no more than 2 years ago, Elias Pettersson was a 5th overall pick. And I'm so angry right now, too, because I remember when we did the mock drafts for that, most rankings had him anywhere between 8 and, 12.
Oh, yeah, he went early.
And he went early, and Detroit was sitting there at 9, and then I was reading after the fact, like, there was, I want to say it was Merrick who was actually talking about it, how there was 2 or 3 teams that had, Pettersson really high on their list, 1 or 2. And he confirmed 2 teams that had Pettersson that high, and it was Vancouver and Detroit.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Detroit had big eyes for Pettersson, so had he got to 9, there was no question Detroit was taking him. But it's just man, even if they won the draft lottery and jumped up to 2 or 3, they probably would have taken Pettersson, or might have taken Pettersson, and now I'm so rattled.
I didn't need that, Brad. I didn't need that in my life.
No, I take it as a positive, though, because, again, how often... We can't praise Detroit's scouting team enough. They just keep nailing it. So... Yeah. Again, even you look at this year, the most pleasant surprise for Red Wings fans this year wasn't even a guy they drafted in the first round in this last draft. Jared McIsaac's over a point per game as a guy we thought was a defensive defenseman.
Yeah, we thought he was just an all-around good player. His defensive attributes being the best.
But he's a point per game player in the queue. If I don't know how his games this weekend went off the top of my head, so he might be a point under. Still, and he's a very real possibility for Team Canada's junior team, World Junior team this summer, And he'll still be eligible next year because he'll be going back to junior next year. So he could be a 2-time Canadian World Junior player. Like, that was their 4th pick in the last draft. They just... And we don't even have to talk about Joe Veleno. Not that this scouting staff had to do a hell of a lot there, but...
Joe Veleno might be the greatest player to ever put skates on. In like, figure skating and hockey combined.
My hottest take right now, like, the hottest take I will spit this month is based on the way this season's going... I'm not entirely certain Philip Zadina will be the best player Detroit got out of this draft.
Wow.
I like Veleno looks there. Like if you look at his post-draft year, his draft year +1 production, different leagues, hard to compare, but style of player, production, yada yada yada. There is not a lot separating Joe Veleno and Dylan Larkin right now.
Oh, okay, Dylan Larkin. Yeah, I got it.
They are the same type of player. Again, Veleno's putting up more points in the Q than Larkin put up in Michigan, but that's to be expected. The Q's a higher offensive league, and the competition's not as strong. But still.
I don't disagree with you, but I think that's because I think Larkin's ceiling is much more attainable to most players in the league.
No, I'm...
Zadina's skill set, his scoring touch is something that Veleno significantly... And I know you're not comparing styles.
Yeah, I'm not saying... If I put money on the table, I'm still betting on Zadina being the better player. I'm just saying Veleno does not look far behind.
Veleno's... And
also keep in mind, Zadina's a winger, Veleno's a center. There's something to be said for that.
There 100% is. And Veleno's playing in a worse league.
He's playing in a worse league. Zadina seems to be getting his touch in Grand Rapids, which is great. So again, this is not a knock on Zadina in any way. This is just me stating this is how good Joe Veleno looks this year.
Yeah, 100%. Veleno looks incredible.
And again, another guy who might be 2-time Canadian World Junior, although I'm right now would bet on Joe Veleno being the Red Wings' third-line center next year. So.
Oh, yeah, he's making this team next year. Like, if everything trends as it is, it's still pretty early.
Yeah, right now I think Michael Rasmussen is honestly going to be a winger forever.
Oh.
Because you're not taking Larkin or Veleno off that. They're better suited to it. You have Franz Nielsen, Darren Helm, Athanasiou there, and that's fine.
And that's fine. I think if Rasmussen progresses the way the team wants to see him progress, and they need to occasionally slot him in center for a power player in case of injury, that's okay. But with his size and the way he moves and what he needs to complement his offensive production, it makes more sense to have him on the wing.
Yeah. Again, the way the NHL is trending, you need speed.
You 100% do. And
if Dylan Larkin and Joe Veleno are your top 2 centers, those are 2 of the fastest centers in the NHL. That is not a bad thing.
Veleno, his big thing was that he always had that raw talent, but never could seem to live up to the hype around the exceptional player status and the offensive production that his talent should translate into way more offensive production, but he just doesn't put it together.
It's not even offensive production that was the knock on Veleno, because I don't think there's a scout out there who would have ever disagreed with the statement that Joe Veleno is an elite playmaker. He was not
no
a
offensive
goal
talent.
scorer.
I mean, putting the puck in the net.
Yeah, he wasn't a goal scorer. There's a really fascinating thing about how he changed up his stick. Went to a specialist to have a custom stick done, had everything tailored, and he started scoring after that. But again, Joe Veleno, elite two-way center, elite skater, elite playmaker, and now we can look at it this year. I'm just pulling it up so I can give you the exact number. All those things are still true. And now he's got 11 goals in 16 games. He has 11 goals, 11 assists, 22 points in 16 games. He looks like he's figuring out how to score goals. And for reference, last year with Drummondville, he had 16 goals and 32 assists. So he literally had his assists were 2-to-1 goals, and now they're 1-to-1. So that's a promising sign. He's slowed down the last couple of games, but that's to be expected with any junior player having a couple of games where just nothing goes their way, which is fine.
Is he going to end up being the Detroit Red Wings' second-line center by halfway through next season? By the time 2020 comes around, Joe Veleno is going to be...
So here's the question you have to ask yourself. Now, Blashill doesn't stack lines. We know this. He spreads the talent out through the lineup. So if Joe Veleno is playing
on... You can't stack lines when you have 2 good players on the team.
Fair enough, but... So he might end up being the second-line center just because they want to put... But the question, what it's going to come down to is, will he be better than Franz Nielsen next year? And I think there's a strong chance he will be.
there's always those like skilled players who come to the Red Wings who are never gonna bring the roof down or anything. But Franz Nielsen was a good player on the Islanders, and he's had spurts where on Detroit he's looked very effective. But why does everything just go gray and dark and dreary the moment these guys come to Detroit? What's with that?
Franz hasn't been poor in Detroit. He's just Franz.
What has he been, right?
Franz Nielsen suffers from the exact same criticism as Darren Helm, as I'll say Justin Abdelkader now, because Abdelkader's actually been a lot better the last few games. The same thing with Luke Glendening. The same thing with Danny DeKeyser. They're not bad players. They're just not worth the contract they were signed for. If Franz comes here at $3.5 million, great. I have no problems with the fact he's making 5.25. Yeah, that's bad. That's real bad. Again, chop $2 million off that. Take him as my third line center 10 out of 10 times on any team, no matter where we're at. Because if you're a cup contender, yeah, you can have a Franz Nielsen as your third line center. But he's making 5.25 for infinity more years. That's the problem.
I was gonna say I there's a small parts of that I disagree with, but that's the real crux of it is the contract. That truly is. I honestly, if not for this contract, I would forget that he was a Red Wing.
Honestly,
he's very forgettable on the ice.
That is honestly his biggest compliment and criticism of the Red Wings. We never, and you're absolutely right. I never notice him. I see him I'll be listening to a goal call, and it's Red Wings goals scored by number 72, Andreas Athanasiou, assisted by number 51, Franz Nielsen. I'm right.
Yeah, well, yeah, we got him.
Right, he's out there.
And you'll see things he got the A on his jersey because he's a leader and he has veteran experience from when he had a letter in New York. And I was just what? Oh yeah, I guess that's a guy with a personality and who says things in the locker room for Detroit with that jersey on. Bizarre, I never really think about it, but I guess that's a real thing.
Yeah.
And it's not a knock. He's a fine player to have. He'd be a good depth player for a lot less money on a way better team.
Yep.
He's not the kind of signing that made sense. He's the kind of guy I think about when everyone's when you say, what has Ken Holland done that's really not been good? And I'm lots of things.
To be fair, all these arguments I've had over the last couple of years have been with in the last 2 years, and he was signed 2.5 years ago.
You're such a massive pile of garbage. You're just such a steaming, smiling...
Ever since the playoff streak ended is basically my benchmark.
White bread piece of garbage. I can't stand you.
Listen here, Neon Windsor boy.
Listen, I need it to survive. I want to talk about one more thing before getting into overtime. You have Evgeny Malkin ejection last night. He got ejected for a hit to the head of TJ Oshie. No supplemental discipline. The league determined that the ejection was the appropriate and only consequence he should face. And there's been a little bit of back and forth on this. Because in a lot of angles it looks like TJ Oshie skated into Malkin and Malkin just braced himself. What's your take?
The tossing from the game was justified, but that was about it. And I was mentioning before the podcast, Ryan, there's one thing Malkin didn't do in that scenario that helps me believe that it's not worth a suspension is he didn't chicken wing. He kept the elbow tuck. It was just shoulder. He didn't launch into him. He kind of extended a bit because he knew Oshie was coming, and that was, to me, what deserved him being tossed from the game. But again, it wasn't high speed. He didn't go out of his way to do it. It wasn't with his elbow. Oshie, again, I'm not the guy who ever puts blame on the victim, but I literally have no idea what Oshie was doing there. It did look like you did just kind of skate into him.
Yeah.
And again, not that I'm a super smart hockey player or anything like that, but I do watch Oshie go, and I'm I literally don't know what he was attempting there. Or if he just wasn't paying enough attention, or his spatial awareness was just poor because he was turning. I don't know. It wasn't egregious. It was dirty. Getting tossed from the game with no supplementals. That's right in my books.
I think I agree in that it's the right call. I'm disappointed because your take wasn't as inflammatory or controversial compared to mine. I'm gonna put it this way: Malkin's big, and Oshie skated into him, and a lot of that makes us not black and white. I'm going to make the same case I've made a lot of other times, which is condescending and garbage of me to do, but I genuinely believe in it, in that there's too much leeway given to professional hockey players who are literally some of the best players to ever play this game. And I've seen a lot of, oh, there's no way he could have reacted, or, oh, that's just a reflex, or how could he have known? No, man. You only had to have played for a short amount of time to realize the level that these guys are at, which is a million times more than you could possibly be at. If you want to know more, ask Brad about his recent semi-pro tryout. And that wasn't an insult, like you were talking about. How the lowest level of like overagers, anything considered above beer league, is still miles ahead of where anyone else is. This is Evgeny Malkin, 101st best player of all time. I'm not going to say it was an egregious target to the head, but he knew what he was doing, and I think the game ejection was appropriate. I understand that this is a Red Wings podcast. I understand that I will never forget the 2008 and then the 2009 finals, and my ferocious observation of Malkin's tendency to be a little bit on the dirtier side in terms of some hits through his career. I understand all that. Take that with a Ryan Hanna-sized grain of salt, but I genuinely believe he knew what he was doing. I don't think that he may have anticipated going how it did, but he didn't. It wasn't completely an accident. And I think the game ejection was actually a gutsy call and the right call by the referee, and I'll commend him for that. And I think the Department of Player Safety did the right thing by not doing anything else. That, in my mind, was textbook. Maybe like an exception to the rule in the textbook, but still in the textbook nonetheless.
Is a Ryan Hanna grain of salt?
It's big. It's huge.
Is it basically a normal grain of salt, but extra salty and a little green?
That is. Yeah, you're right. Extra salty. It's just more, and with big shoulders. And
the molecules are denser.
Yeah. Thanks, Brad. I take back all the mean things I've said about you. I like you a lot better than Evan. Yeah, it's
You like me more than everybody else in this room right now.
Yes, until Mika finds her way down here again. In which case,
she's not home.
She's not home?
Yeah, they went to her conference.
That's nice. It's nicer for us.
It's going to be worse for us when they come home.
Oh, well, the good news is we're not too far from the end of this episode.
I think they said 9:30, so we'll be alright.
Yeah, we're going to head over into overtime now. Overtime, of course, is where all our Patreon patrons get their comments read out on air, guaranteed, as our way of saying thank you for supporting the show. Now, this being a midweek episode means only Patreon patron comments are read out for overtime. And we are going to start with Evan Beckner. He says, hey guys, based on his annual salary in average ice time, Milan Lucic makes approximately $4,800 for every minute he is on the ice. You guys have to pay to suck at hockey. Hard pill to swallow, but Lucic might be the smartest man in hockey. I wouldn't call him smart. He mugged a guy the other night on the ice.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah,
I love how they say Milan Lucic has only been suspended 3 times. It was only for 1 game each. I'm still salty he didn't get suspended when he nut tapped to Kaiser a few years ago, because that was his 3rd instance of doing that.
Yeah. Hey, hit someone in legitimately the most pain-sensitive and exposed important organ in their body.
From behind.
From behind.
When he was unexpected.
Yeah.
I have no respect for Milan Lucic as a hockey player, based on some of his comments off the ice. The jury's still out on that one too, but I digress because I don't know what he's like as a person. I just know on the ice, he makes me feel better about Justin Applicator's contract.
Yeah, Milan Lucic is the worst contract. We've said that from the moment he was signed. Everyone who's had half a brain has said that.
And then his production has fallen off a cliff since he signed it too. At his production at the point of contract, we're like, yeah, that bad. And then it got a lot worse, and it's just getting worse.
Yep. Taylor Hunter says, "Hey Brad, Ryan, and Evan." Sorry, Taylor. I'm newly a Patreon, which is very rad. Thank you, welcome, and thank you again.
I feel like we're sorry.
Yeah, something like that. The Winged Wheel podcast favorited my tweet, thank God for Jimmy Howard, and I admitted I did a fangirl. Well, keep tweeting good stuff and we'll keep favoriting it. What do you think about the possibility of re-signing Jimmy mid-season?
Oh my God, we didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
We suck as a podcast.
No, we usually save Red Wings stuff for Sundays.
This is true, but I guess since Taylor brought it up, we'll get into it. So Anzar Khan reported this week that it looks like the plan is from Detroit Red Wings management to sign Jimmy to a contract extension this year because he's played well enough this year. This comes as a surprise to nobody on this podcast because we said this before the season started. It would make no sense to go out and spend infinity money on a goalie like Bobrovsky now. And the other goalies available are no better or worse, for the most part, than Jimmy Howard. So why not stick with what you know? He'll probably come back on a cheaper contract. He's old. He'll probably take 1, 2, 3-year contract. And that's okay. That's a good thing.
Everything Brad said I agree with. Here's my number. Here's my number and my term to not be angry at Ken Holland. And Ken Holland has a short leash, and I know that. Here's my number. $3 million. 2 years. Any more on either front, and that's wrong in my mind.
There's no way he's going to take that much of a pay cut. There's no way.
He doesn't deserve
You
more
cannot pay your starter. Like, okay, here's the optics of it and the reality of it. As much as I would love to have Jimmy at that contract, you cannot pay your starter the same pay you're paying your backup.
Bernier is Howard's gonna have to tune down the amount of games he plays anyways.
Bernier's not that much younger than him.
Well, Bernier is playing fewer games right now. Like Jimmy cannot. Like they're gonna be splitting a load.
I don't think they will be. I think it's very clear Jimmy's the starter of this team. Jimmy will be the starter of this team. So my honest prediction is Jimmy's coming back. Same cap hit, 2 years.
Same cap hit.
5.1.
I will light the LCA on fire.
It'll be.
I will burn the mother down.
Detroit is not tight to the cap for the next 2 years.
Why do we do this so many times though? Taylor, look what you started.
Because you are not getting Jimmy Howard. You are not getting a starting goalie for anywhere near $3 million unless you're comfortable with trotting Bernier out for the next 2 years.
Let him trot out Bernier. If it's for what does he make? 5.3, 5.6 or something?
Right now, I think it's like 5.3, yeah, something like that.
No. $4 million, no. Are you kidding? No way. This is how we get in the same garbage that we do all the time. It's, well, we're not close to the cap, so we can afford to give this aging guy who is not part of the future plan. He's a whole, like, I love Jimmy Howard, and he's going to go, I've said, he's going to go down in Red Wings lore. He's going to be the person us old people will bring up 50 years from now and say, yeah, so-and-so might have so many cups, but do you remember Jimmy Howard really shouldered the city of Detroit when everyone else left? But he is an aging goaltender on it, where even if he's playing his best game, his save percentage is going to be .912 because he has trash in front from defense. You don't pay that $5 million a year.
So you've seen the Detroit Red Wings defense this year, right?
Yep.
.917.
Wow.
You think a goalie playing behind this travesty of a defensive group and is putting up a .917 save percentage takes anything less than $5 million?
Let someone else have him for that.
If Jimmy Howard was 28 years old at that save percentage on this team, he gets 5 years, $8 million.
Yeah, that's a different player though.
No, it is, and I understand that. I'm at the point, I do not care what Jimmy Howard's cap it is, so long as that contract's not longer than 2 years.
I just can't stomach it.
Are the Red Wings going to compete in 2 years? I don't think so.
But you need that maneuverability. Like you just cannot be spending to the cap and be the worst team every year. It's just not. It's whether or not there is like in circumstantial situations, like yeah, it doesn't matter because they're not going to like it doesn't. You just philosophically and as an organization cannot be spending to spend. In my mind, if $3 million buys you a .913 and
3 million doesn't buy you a .913.
A lot of goalies can put up a .913 for a lot less.
Not on this team.
If $3 million buys you a .910 and 5.1 buys you a .917 with this team in front of you, you let Jimmy walk. Or if you really think that's what it's going to take, then you trade him.
You're a Ken Holland cynic. I'll present this to you another way. The more cap hit we eat in Jimmy Howard, the less Franz Nielsen's we buy.
I'm at the point where like I want. If you want to know what my heart of heart says every time these things come up, is I want to turn the fever up. I want to sweat it out overnight. I want Ken Holland to keep making mistakes so the Chris Ilitch is forced to push him out.
No, he's made enough. He hasn't made a big
And here
one.
we are, Brad.
He hasn't made a big one in a couple of years, but we're still feeling it from 3 years ago, so...
I maintain that he's... Taylor goes on to say, why did they put Applicator on for the shootout? Was anyone surprised when he didn't score? I forgot about that. What on earth are you doing trying to close out a shootout? Don't give me whatever bullshit stat you're about to... I can see you. I can see your stat. Why are you putting Justin Abdelkader out there to try and win a game? And what Justin Abdelkader tried to deke? Does he know he's Justin Abdelkader?
So I have a stupid good memory. Justin Abdelkader beat Andrei Vasilevsky with that exact move on a penalty shot last year, so I'm not actually devastated that he tried it. I think he's 2 for 2 in career penalty shots, and he actually has a decent career shootout percentage. Justin Abdelkader should not be in a lot of situations for the Red Wings, but he's actually surprisingly competent when it comes to the shootout. Remember that goal he scored against San Jose last year where he just like went forehand backhand and completely froze Martin Jones and put it in?
Why are we... What is... He's been bad this year. Bad.
He's improved over the last, I'll say, 4 or 5 games.
I would say 2-3 games.
Yeah, either way, he's come around. I'm not saying he's anything more than a fourth liner, but whatever. But again, who was it? Ottawa's shootout specialist is Tom Pyatt. Some guys just know how to do it in the shootout despite lack of skill.
If you call Justin Abdelkader a shootout specialist
I didn't
on this
say
podcast,
specialist.
One more time, I will fashion a water bottle into a knife and stab you in the throat. I swear to God.
No more than 2 minutes ago, I used the term surprisingly competent. I did not say he was some wizard at this.
You just alluded to the fact that Pyatt is a shootout specialist.
I'm using it as an example as sometimes unskilled players can be good at this one facet of
Brad,
the game.
it wouldn't be hard. I would use scissors and cut it out into a strip and then fold it over into a triangle several times and then compress it under a stack of books week after week after week, and then next time you say something dumb, it's just right in the throat.
Listen, Vanek was out, Athanasiou was out, Nielsen was out. Outside of Anthony Mantha, was there anybody on that bench that you were looking at and going, yeah, he's the guy we need to try out right now?
Jimmy Howard for the money we're about to pay him.
By the way, for the record, I'm a big advocate of if you run through the entire roster, the goalies absolutely should shoot on the goalies.
I 100% think so too. She goes on to say, what do you think of the Bruins' new jerseys for the Winter Classic? I think it looks like the Bruins will be bees out on the ice. I like the Bruins in the Chicago Blackhawks set.
The old Milt Schmidt era Bruins jerseys, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think they're neat.
I think we're going overboard with the number of frickin' jerseys. Oh my god, that reminds me of those Digital 6 jerseys, those fucking abominations.
Oh, those were terrible.
The Red Wings one was alright, and it was the best by a mile, and they ruined it with the stupid socks.
Yeah.
And some people were saying, yeah, but those were the actual socks they used for the 08 Winter Classic. Yeah, I know what I said.
Hunter Saunders says, it's been a while since I remember to post on Patreon, so sorry about that. But you still get my money, so yay. Thanks, Hunter. So it's been fun watching us win, but is anyone else starting to get concerned that we're too good for the lottery spot? Anaheim and LA are woeful. Florida's mind-boggling, and we've been hot lately. Furk has been flying around. Mantha's on an I'm a power forward, you can't get the puck off me streak. Mantha's puck production has been great lately.
Better. Okay, on that point, I've been watching Mantha real closely trying to figure out what the hell is going on. There's one thing I've noticed in his game last year I didn't notice the last few years. His decision-making with the puck has been unbelievably stupid this year. He tries to force passes that nobody in the
because he's trying too hard. Because he's
yeah.
You see this so much in young players who are slumping. He's in his own head.
This is he's gripping the stick too hard, metaphorically speaking. Because Anthony, listen to me here, dude. You're like 6 foot 100 and you're like 400 pounds. You can hold on to that puck for as long as you want and wait for the right opportunity to come up. Stop trying to force plays that aren't there. That is literally all that he is doing wrong, other than the occasional flyby. But that's just who Anthony Mantha is, just like that's who Johan Franzen was. You're willing to take a bit of effort slip every once in a while because you know when they get the puck it's going to be great. Except for Anthony Mantha this year when he's got the puck, it hasn't been great. He needs to stop forcing plays that just aren't there.
He goes on to say, and Burton Larkin are starting to make stuff happen. I'm all for development, but don't want to be stuck in purgatory. I do think the Wings will regress down. I think they're getting fortunate right now.
And the Red Wings are 5-8-1. This is that's obscenely bad for today's NHL. No matter how we're in a league where maybe 4 teams truly finish below 500 every year.
I think Detroit's run into a few teams lately where the teams have played down to them.
And the Red Wings have a very, again, the Red Wings are arguably the worst team in the league, but they're running into a relatively easy schedule over the next 2 weeks. So do not expect to see them string together over the next 2 weeks a winning record. If they're ever going to do it, this is the time. But yeah, over the course of the season, take 5, 8, and 1 and times it by however much percent they're through the season, because that's about where they'll finish. This isn't crazy.
Also, Cholowski getting played third pairing minutes makes me want to throw up. Lastly, did anyone involuntarily audibly laugh when you could hear Abby's stick hitting the ice on his cheek in the shootout? That was a very funny, like, it was just like such a, oh, Abby shooting. Yeah, that was terrible. Thanks and happy late birthday, everyone except Ryan, you attention seeker. Oh, well, rude. The Needler says...
Yeah, I was going to bring up the fact that we recorded the podcast the day after my birthday, and I never mentioned it once.
I mentioned it.
Yeah.
I also tweeted happy birthday at you.
Yeah, you're a good person.
Did you tweet happy birthday at me?
I'm not giving you that kind of satisfaction. Because I'm like, he'll talk about it tonight. I don't need to bring it up.
The Needler says, country roads, take me home. Sorry, to the place I belong. West Virginia! Sorry. Virginia. And he keeps going. Mountain Mama, take me home, country roads. Wow, you can put a lot in there. Thank you, the Needler. Brad? How was that? Oh, well. Maybe you boys can explain to me the difference between the Matheson hit on Pettersson and the Lucic hit. I truly believe the Matheson hit should not have been suspendable. I disagree. He goes, I disagreed with everything the two of you said on that topic, but now the NHL has set a precedent that basically anything that's not a hockey play is suspendable. Yeah, you know, you're right in that the way they treated those two plays doesn't match up.
No, but there's one thing in Lucic's defense here. At no point in his altercation with Joseph was he delivered a dramatic blow to the head like Pettersson got when he hit the ice. What should Lucic have got a game? Yeah, I'd be fine with that. But in reality, he hit Joseph shoulder to shoulder. It was away from the play. It's a penalty. He kind of threw a half-assed punch that looked like it might have connected, and then he pulled full mount and didn't really do anything, just kind of like intimidated him and shoved him around a bit. So as far as injury goes, there wasn't a whole lot he did to Matthew Joseph there, whereas Matheson did give Pettersson a concussion, so I think that's the difference there.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you fully. I think the NHL just completely fucked it up, and they should have been... Like, I think what Lucic did was worse,
But they do, but also right in the CBA, there is a thing where they do factor injury into a decision. Pettersson had a concussion, Joseph came up with nothing.
Yeah.
I disagree with that being a thing. It should all be about intent to injure.
I think that's a lot of mental gymnastics to get to a point that's questionable. That's just what
I'm just saying that's how it's written in the CBA.
Speaking of the CBA, Bell and Connor. Never mind, I don't want to talk about it. The Lucic hit is not a hockey play. He tracks down a player and hits him unsuspectingly. I'm all for players policing the game, but I'd like more consistency from the NHL. If the player Lucic hit was a young star and hurt, would he be suspended? Yeah.
If he was hurt, oh god, yeah.
I'm biased and hate... No, even if he was a star, he'd be suspended.
Yeah,
please.
probably.
Yeah, like the NHL. Perfect. I'm biased and hate Lucic, but I believe both plays shouldn't have been suspendable. It looked like a welcome to the NHL kid hits. That's where I'm going to differ. I think they were both suspendable. Kaylin Wood says, happy belated, Ryan. I remember when I used to acknowledge and expect special treatment for my birthday. Enjoy it while you can. No, it's already over, man. I think 25 is too much. I generally hate any attention when mine rolls around, aside from the ability to drink beer and play video games as long as I want, guilt-free. I'm so glad that I'm still excited to watch a Wings game. The chances to do so have declined over time as I've gotten married, advanced my career, so I have more responsibilities, etc. I really do love this team. Yeah, we aren't great, but there's always a reason to watch this year, even if it's not just for a win, but for a chance to see the young boys advance and improve. I realize this is preaching to the choir, but I think it's important to remind everyone that this team is more than just a hockey club, it's an escape. It's not politics or work, it's pure enjoyment, assuming you're a fan of the sport, and it's not worth getting worked up over the little things. As one of my favorite designers, Aaron Draplin, a Michigan man to boot, says, get cosmic. There's a whole universe out there. Your problems are nothing. Just enjoy something. We're lucky to have something like the Wings to rally around and build relationships. Blah, blah, shut up. Hey, man, this is a really nice sentiment. I really like this.
It is, but watching them makes me sad for the most part right now.
Get to the off-topic question. So here's this week's question. Having heard all that, would you rather have wet socks or chapped lips for a full week? Thanks for the hard work.
Oh, chapped lips.
Chapped lips, for sure.
100%.
It's been raining.
It gives me an excuse to not talk to people, and, like, wet, cold feet is just the worst.
Has it been raining for the past 8 months, yes or no?
I
I can't remember.
What was it? I think it was yesterday. The sun came out for like an hour, and I actually commented to Chris. I'm like, "Wow, I feel like I haven't seen the sun in like 2 months."
I want snow rather than rain because at least I can wear things to prevent the snow from like seeping into every orifice of my existence. Right now, it's too warm and too rainy for me to wear my winter boots because like my feet will just like swelter in the office, and like the boots aren't really meant for rain; they're meant for snow, and I can't wear anything besides like my dress shoes to work, and it's ruining the leather dress shoes because it's just rain everywhere. It's just rain, and you're wet, and everything. Your socks are wet, and your life. God. Anyways, our next comment is from newly minted Patreon supporter Rowan, all the way from Australia. He says, "At Brad, you challenged me to a fight."
Hold on, I was gonna say before his comment even starts, I will put money on the table he joined Patreon just to come at me over Darren Helm.
You challenged me to a fight on a recent podcast. I accept. In preparation, I will be boxing with kangaroos 5 mornings a week. Your comeuppance will be swift. Justice will be served for your Helm slander.
I knew it.
I'm allowing you to put the wings in the 2021 Winter Classic. Where do you play the game and against who?
Ooh, I like that question.
West Virginia, just for the memes, man.
So we're allowed to pick, so we're assuming this is going to be a road game for Detroit?
Not necessarily.
Because,
let's do road and home.
Yeah, because, the Big House is perfect for a home game for Detroit, right? Unless you want to do some freeze over the Detroit River and have neon ice hockey, whatever the hell that is.
Hey, man, don't knock it.
So... A road...
A home game, I love the Big House. I thought the Big House was amazing. It was the coldest I've ever been, and I might actually not go if they do it there again. But it was incredible.
The problem is Detroit's already done, the two obvious ones that would come to my head.
America and the Big House.
Yeah.
So on the road, I would say I want Colorado. I want in...
We've done that!
I know, but I just love it. I want Winter Classic, not Stadium Series.
So, man, I am actually really struggling here.
Has Chicago had it? Winter Classic?
Maybe Pittsburgh, because I feel like they haven't had enough yet.
Toronto. Detroit's just too much of a marquee team.
Honestly, I'm done with Detroit and outdoor games because they've done everything cool. If we're gonna... Because I'm running through my head for rivalries here. We've done all that, so if we're just gonna pick an objectively cool location... I would love to see them go out to Calgary or something and just do something with the Rockies. Like that one. Just have it in some obscure location where you can only have 15 people watching because there's no actual stands. Just straight up Mystery Alaska this bitch. I'm down.
Anchorage, Alaska would be sweet, but there's be no one there.
I don't care.
I'm sorry if you're in Alaska. I know we have some Alaskan listeners.
Which is fine, but for the scenery and all that, I've done an outdoor game, and I'm with you. I don't know if I would ever go back to one, because my feet literally froze.
I said that after the Big House, and I still went to Toronto for the next one.
Yeah.
The Centennial Classic.
But yeah, if you want to do one where, you can't actually have an audience there and everybody's just watching on TV, I'm game.
Hassam Al-Qassem says, "Hey, Dub, do you guys ever think back on how Holland traded away Vasilevsky and cry a little bit?" I do. I don't like thinking about that. He goes, also, how crazy would this offseason be if we not only get Jack Hughes and Yzerman back, but we also hire Coach Q? I will be Toronto Maple Leafs this year levels of neurotic.
Anytime we're happy on this podcast, we generally do giveaways. If all three things happen, we will literally give away Ryan to one patron.
100%.
Just you can have him for a week.
I will 100% sell myself. Not for money, not for any reason to support me or the podcast, just out of pure unbridled energy and joy of that happening. I won't know what to do. I'm not often that happy, so when my body gets to that point, it's what do you still walk normally? Is it still right, left, or is it right, 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 right?
And then Ryan just spins in circles for 3 days.
Yeah, that's essentially it. And then I tucker myself out, and I wake up and the Red Wings are on a losing streak. That's essentially all we have. We want to thank you guys. We want to tell you guys the same things we do every episode. Brad, I remember you asking me if this is all on a recording, and it's not. We've just done this. We've hit... I looked at how many things we posted on SoundCloud, and it's 200. We always miss our landmark things, and I can't remember if that 200 includes like our private episodes.
Hey, I think it should include the private episodes.
So like I don't know how many episodes we're at, but we're near 200. Thank you to everyone who listens. Patreon patrons, we love you. If you want to support on Patreon, patreon.com/WingBealPodcast. Other ways to support this podcast: like us on Facebook. Subscribe however you get your podcast. Leave a rating on iTunes. Subscribe on iTunes. Subscribe / do the thing on Spotify for the Winged Wheel Pod, because we are on Spotify. We're anywhere you can find your podcast. And if we're not, tell us and we'll make it happen. Follow us on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod, and then please follow our individual accounts listed in the bio. That's the best way to communicate with us. We'll follow you back from our podcast account. We might even like a tweet, and we'll see you this weekend after we track down Evan's body.
If you're still listening, please tweet at me at Brad Crisco that you're still listening, because I want to see how many of you psychopaths actually listen through all that rabble.
Brad farming for Twitter. Jesus.